There needs to be a special counsel investigating Joe Biden and Merrick Garland. But who appoints the special counsel? The Attorney General. But if he has no integrity, then what happens? He's supposed to recuse himself. Then it goes to the Deputy Attorney General. She's a bomb thrower, an Obama bomb thrower, but still, they destroy the whole process. I mentioned on radio the other night, and if you think about this, I think you'll draw the same conclusion. You remember the great Ken Starr? Ken Starr was a dear friend of mine. He was obviously independent counsel during much of the Clinton period. He was asked to be independent counsel by the court at that time, and he was handed one case after another by the Attorney General, Janet Reno. And you might recall that every morning when he came out of his home, the press had their cameras in his face and microphones in his face. And when he would go home at night, same thing. They trashed him. They were trying to, yell questions at him. How come you're doing this to Clinton? How come you're doing that? They're right there in front of his home, one story after another, brutalizing the man. And you'll notice there's none of that with Jack Smith, these so-called special, none of it. We're the media at the guy's home. Do we even know where he lives? No. Do you know that this guy, Jack Smith, the so-called special counsel, won't even release the names of the people who are working on his staff? I mean, Robert Mueller didn't even pull that, so we were able to see who Weissman was and all the rest of them, all the other miscreants. The same thing happened with Mueller. They never went to his home. They never threw questions at him. They never went after their staff because they all leak. Not so with Ken Starr. He ran a tight ship, but it's very different. And in February 2019, I asked him about this. And I have to tell you, when he passed away, I guess almost a year ago this time, it was a complete shock to me. He'd had surgery. I don't know what kind of surgery. And he didn't recover well. And we contacted his dear wife, and we wanted him to come on the program, and she said he was unable to. And then we learned why. It was very sad. He was really good, and also he even stepped out, willing to be one of President Trump's impeachment defending lawyers. Anyway, let's check this out. We have independent counsel Robert Mueller. He's got his team. He's actually special counsel. You were independent counsel under a specific statute, and you had obligations under that statute that you had to follow. He has a different statute with fewer obligations. And I wanted to ask you a question, and I've thought about this a lot. As I watch the coverage of Robert Mueller, I find out he's the most noble man to ever walk the earth. And so is his staff. I find members of Congress trying to pass laws to protect him from what I don't know. And I remember when you were an independent counsel, we had the paparazzi media on your front step. I saw you come out with a cup of coffee every now and then. We knew when you came up in the morning, when you went to bed at night. Kind of different coverage. You were criticized constantly by the media. He's defended by the media. What do you make of that?
Night and day, apples and oranges. The press knew where I lived, and they camped out. Also, they camped outside frequently, not always, camped outside our offices in Washington, D.C. Very different.
They don't do that for Mueller. Why is that, do you think?
It's very nice of them.
Yes.
And honestly, I was curious. I asked someone in Washington, hey, does people not know where Bob Mueller lives? I don't wish him that kind of invasion of privacy, but we lived in a nice suburban area of McLean, Virginia. I
remember your house. It was very nice.
Yeah, it's simple. Some of my friends
all over TV.
So, our Brady Bunch house.
Yes.
We had a carport, not a garage, and so forth. So, but Madison Court, isn't that a great name? We lived on Madison Court, and the press was pretty much ubiquitous.
But why do you think the distinction, the difference in coverage?
There's got to be a treaty of peace that with the networks, platforms, and so forth, they said, we're going to leave him alone.
They like him. They didn't like you. Do you think it's because of who you were investigating and who he's investigating? I mean, isn't that a logical conclusion?
It's a very logical conclusion. Someone who's investigating the president is likely to be very unpopular with a whole bunch of people, maybe 50%, 45% of the American people. But the media as a whole, even though there were some great heroes in the media as far as my own investigation was concerned, but the media as a whole, I think, is pretty sympathetic to those who are investigating a Republican, Watergate, Richard Nixon, and then maybe not so those investigating a Democrat.
Yeah, the great Ken Starr. It's so true. The coverage that this guy's getting, this Jack Smith, who basically is the mob lawyer for the mob lawyer attorney general, who's the mob lawyer for the mobster president that we have. And it's very upsetting and troubling to me, very frustrating. There is no special counsel investigating all these criminal allegations against Biden, and they are so serious and substantive. Now we have obstruction all over the place on behalf of Hunter Biden. We have 2 IRS whistleblowers. We have an FBI whistleblower. They all say the same thing. They're circling the wagons. Here's the thing. There needs to be a special counsel investigating Joe Biden and Merrick Garland. But who appoints the special counsel? The attorney general. But if he has no integrity, then what happens? He's supposed to recuse himself. Then it goes to the deputy attorney general. She's a bomb thrower, an Obama bomb thrower, but still, they destroy the whole process. They don't care about the whole process. And then you have Donald Trump. They turn a documents case into almost 40 charges. And January 6th, which we'll talk about down the road, unfortunately sooner than later, where they have to concoct charges against Donald Trump in a political process. I mean, the whole thing is so out of sorts. It's very depressing, isn't it? But that's what they want. They want you dispirited. They want you off the playing field. They want you in a fetal position. They want you scared. They want you intimidated. Ain't gonna happen.
Want to see more Mark Levin? Go to levintv.com and subscribe now.